Good morning, friends. Um, so, a friend of mine a few weeks ago that we're just friends, in fact, we never met in person. Um, and she has a partner, just so you understand the nature of the relationship a little bit. Um, and we met like through the healing world. A friend of mine recommended her for something that a service that I was desiring in my life. And through meeting that way, we became friends pretty instantly. And so, this is a person where it's a really mutual, beneficial relationship. And we both receive healing just by each other's expression. So, I'm going to talk about this from like sex, in my opinion, in my experience, um, why I am the way I am, why I function the way I function in sexuality, and uh, yeah, and like just some different examples of things that I've noticed, I guess. So, yesterday I spent time with someone that I love dearly because they're a family member, and yet an extremely toxic male. Like, embarrassingly so. Uh, and when I say that, I'm embarrassed for him. Uh, like, I don't know if that makes sense, and maybe that's judgmental, but also being related, somehow I judge myself or something. Um, Anyways, beyond all of that, it helped me to understand why this friend asked me to share my views on this. Um, so, sexuality is more than just about pleasure in my mind. And uh, the things that I've read about it in the spiritual world, like, for instance, in um, the Bible, it says that a man and a woman will leave their mom and dad, and the two will become one. So there's this uniting of two people where not only do they like join all their belongings together and they like put their toothbrushes next to each other and they wake up next to each other, usually in the same bed. Um, Typically, anyway, like things like that, they join their lives together. When we have sex, we like become one. We're plugged into each other, and that's like a spiritual connection. So, tantrically, um, a female receives love through her heart, right? Female gives love through her heart, and so to for a female to be activated sexually, first her heart needs to be activated. I'm not saying that you can't activate a woman sexually in other ways. It's just not necessarily the most energetically natural way to ignite a woman anywhere other than through her heart first. That's just, and I don't want to get into like sexuality as far as sexual preferences or anything like that. We're talking about. I don't know. I can only speak to heterosexual relationships, and I believe that this works in other types of relationships, but it just probably looks a little different. So take whatever is useful and for you, and just disregard the rest. This is just my experience, and I can only really speak from my experience. And some of the things that I've learned help me to have a better expression of who I am, basically. Does that make sense? It helps me explain it in an easier way. So, a male, actually, though, his sexual energy is he gives through his penis, through his lower chakras. And so, tantrically, let's say that this is the male, and let's say that this is his penis, this is his heart, this is his head. Okay, we're just gonna go with that. And let's say a female, this is her head, her heart, her vagina. So tantrically, there's this energy circle that is created, and it goes from the female's heart into the male's heart and down, and from the penis up into the female's heart and down, and it's just this circle. And so for a female to ignite a male sexual energy, it actually starts at the penis. And for a male to ignite a female's energy, it actually starts at the heart. And so a male's, in general, right, the masculine energy projects forward and from the lower chakras, and a female's energy, sexual energy, projects forward from the chest. And so we express sexual energy much different. And that's how we like complete this energetic circle between two people. Well, so when we combine, our spirits combine. And when your spirit combines with something, there's this law in science. They use it in forensics a lot. It's called the law of transference. And so anything that I touch will leave its mark on me, and vice versa. And so we know this, right? Like I said yesterday, I spent time with this very toxic male who it felt like was a vampire feeding on me constantly. Like he couldn't stop talking. He couldn't stop saying the N-word. He couldn't stop like finding every division in culture that there's possible to find, and just like gnashing and gnarling at everything and everyone in the world, including himself. And it's like, fuck me. I just want to crawl out of the fucking car and get away, you know? I spent from 9 o'clock in the morning until 7:30, I think, around 8:30 at night, almost 12 hours with this person, and I was fucking exhausted. So that's an energetic thing that I'm explaining right now, okay? I'm not trying to complain. I'm just giving you a real view of how I felt. And you have felt the same way with certain people, I'm sure. So I want to compare that with what I experienced a couple nights ago with a friend of mine that is one of my best friends in the entire world. And we reconnected after like, I don't know, years, at least 4 years. And it was a beautiful exchange of energy. Like we were both uplifted by the visit. And in fact, from the time that we talked on the phone, just the sound of each other's voice actually like made our hearts jump and like put kind of like fire in our bellies, you know? And it's because we were both feeding each other energetically. And so there are people in our lives that feed us energetically, or that are at least neutral energetically and don't take from us. And then there are people that energetically, they have things going on that we don't necessarily want going on. And so for me, sexuality is sacred because of that, because of the law of transference, my spirit uniting with another spirit. Um, that actually happens just being in the same space as someone. I can walk into a room and realize how people are feeling, where they're at. Um, Most of us, I think, do that, at least to a certain extent. You know, you can walk into a room where everyone has just had an argument and you can sense the tension in the air. And, um, you know, we can like develop that more, develop it less, and it seems to me as my spirit develops, I develop that more. And so I'm learning ways to control and enjoy that energy and make it my own. And yet there are times where I have to just take a step back from the world and be by myself, be with my own energy, feel my own energy, think about my own issues, uh, work them out. And sexuality, when I decide to have sex with somebody, I believe when all of us decide to have sex with somebody, we share our spirits, and that law of transference is there, and part of that person will be with you, if not forever. It will take work for that person not to be with you, like specific work. And then I believe that still there's residual no matter what. And so I'm very careful about who I unite myself with energetically, especially in sexuality. That's a sacred, sacred thing. It's not treated such in our world, and that's okay. I'm okay with being different. But just the fact that your sexuality starts in the sacrum area, and the sacrum is named sacral, right? And so that is actually the base of our energy center. And within the sacrum, within the tailbone, is energy stored, life energy. And that sexual energy actually ignites that life energy. And so that's another reason to be really careful for me about who I sleep with, because for me, it also ignites that life energy, right? And so if somebody who has a lot of things in their life that I don't prefer ignites my life energy, that gets really sticky and messy. And so that's why I don't have casual sex, and I only have sex with people that I'm in love with. And it hasn't always been that way. And these are things that I've been actually working out and thinking about a lot. And then how I go about sex is really first, I want to be with women that, like, I've noticed there are certain, I want to be with someone that is as into me as I am into them. And I want to be with someone that wants the same thing. So I don't want to be with someone that just wants to give. I don't want to be with someone that just wants to receive. I want to be with someone who wants to give and receive pretty equally, most of the time at least. And because that's what intimacy is sharing in both the giving and the receiving, sharing in just who we are. And sexuality is too important for us, for myself. My spirit and my energy are too important for me to treat that casually. And so when I enter into a sexual relationship with somebody, just like everything in my life, it's all or nothing. Um, I am fully present in my sexual experiences. I'm fully present with that woman that is with me, and I'm fully present with myself, or as present as I am capable of at the time. And, I've done a lot of research into, I've done a lot of research into porn and why because I have not really understood why porn is dangerous, right? I truly have not understood that. I somehow have understood that there's a danger to it, that there's something going on there that can be very unhealthy. And so I did some research because it just seems to be something that's very, like, getting more and more prevalent. I have young kids, so but anyways, I've learned a lot of interesting things. Like, porn is very much linked to human trafficking, and a lot of these women are not necessarily free. There's a lot of actual slavery going on in the sex industry, to include in porn, and there's a lot of underage things going on. And not only that, man, porn is like, I'm not here to put down anybody's fetishes or anything. But porn is kind of violent in a lot of ways, and it's very, from a masculine perspective. I'm not saying that there aren't females that feel like porn is a good thing or whatever, that enjoy porn, and that's fine, whatever. But it's from a very, I'm just gonna say, toxic masculine perspective, and it's very materialistic. It's very much body part oriented, obviously. But maybe the biggest danger is dopamine, and how it is an instant dopamine fix. It's just another way to get addicted. And it can ruin people's lives because of the way that dopamine acts, and just fulfilling a gratification, especially a very primal, base gratification, instantly, over and over again, helps us, creates a situation where we're never really satisfied, and where we are not where we train ourselves to not be able to um, do long term, like, get through long term things. Like, we don't think of the long term anymore. We only think of gratification now. And I believe in being in the moment, in all things in life, and yet I believe that we should live as if we may die at any second, or we may live forever. And so, it's interesting. All of these things, in my opinion, have to do with our sexuality. The energy of our very life force comes from the sexual energy, the second chakra. Our imagination, our fire, our desire to create, our artistic impression, all of those things they start with that fire, that place of fire just below the belly button. our like how we whether we are radiating or not radiating uh, positive, uplifting energy, it starts right there. And so it's not something that I take lightly, especially considering my childhood and just my life in general. It's not something that I take lightly, and so when I enter into a sexual relationship with a woman, um, I'm very in tune with her. I'm very in tune with myself, and so interestingly, I wanted to talk about all those things before I talked about how I treat a woman sexually, because if you don't know why I treat a woman this way, and you're like the individual that I spent time with yesterday all day, nothing that's gonna make sense. And I feel like the more that I notice the messages to men in our society, the more that I notice that we're not really being taught in any way. There aren't many very good examples of how to love ourselves and love somebody else of the opposite sex. I actually see a lot of like anger towards each other from each sex in everyday society, like in our media especially, but even like individual YouTube channels and stuff like that. It's like a war. It's like uh, it's really weird. There's a lot of weirdness going on in our society, and it feels like the message out there is that we're enemies. And we have the ability to help each other heal. And that's another reason that I take sex very seriously. Um, I do want it to be valuable in my lifelong mate relationship. I don't want it to have become something that is not valuable. So there are other things that are more important to me than my sexual needs. And that goes into how I treat a woman. And so I'll talk next time, maybe, we'll see, about more of the actual act, or how I get into the feeling, or how I am able to feel into who I'm with. And I don't know, if anybody wants to have a discussion about this, leave a comment. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button. It would really help me out. Subscribe if you want to get notifications of when new videos come out, and if you want to help me out in my future career. Blessings, much love, and these are just my thoughts, homies.